Hello and welcome to our show, Film Talk with AJ Dean. And I'm AJ Dean, your host. And look out, we have such a special VIP today. I am so thrilled to and honored to interview Mr. Benjamin Thornton. He is a studio executive. He's worked for Sony and Warner Brothers, but he's so much more than that. He's a producer and director. Let's give him a super warm welcome. Hey, Benjamin, how are you? All the way from Hollywood. How are you? Los Angeles. Hey.
Hi, AJ. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here today as well. Everything's great. It's a lovely day today so far.
How is the weather there in Hollywood, Los Angeles, Southern
It's
California?
it's nice. It's always sunny.
It's always sunny.
It's
Exactly.
always sunny.
We were just talking about that. It's
Weird.
always sunny, and you kind of have to have air conditioning, right? When
We
you
do. Yes,
live.
I have the fan, the air conditioning, and yeah, still in a
Good.
sweater. But
Okay, okay. Well, I've been looking forward to interviewing you so very much. And we're going to talk about Now What and the Queen Latifah show, but I just want to share that you began as a merchandise coordinator on the Queen Latifah show and all the way up to development executive at Warner Brothers Studios, international TV production
correct.
department. So can you walk us through this intriguing trajectory? Because I'm so fascinated. I know people are too. Take it away, Benjamin.
Well, thank you. I will just say that to this process that I was on the Queen Latifah show, or a part of it as the marketing team, but not on the show. I wasn't a part of the production. So the merchandise coordinator position, I actually worked with like I said, the marketing team. And what we did is I was actually in charge of the process of the sales of her merchandise in the green room before the guests walked into the show itself. And so I actually wasn't the first person that was invited to do that. I was the third person. Actually, there was another person that set it up who was a lovely lady. And then they gave it to another gentleman who, as I remember, he was getting his SAG card and it would affected because he was also doing other things on the show. And so he said, I need to work on that. And so you need somebody to replace me for this. And so they brought me in and I ended up doing that for um 68 episodes. And it's a weird way to word that because they filmed 4 days a week, 2 episodes a day. Please don't make me do the math on that, but it was very, very, very much a process of going in every day, working with the marketing team, setting up, and working for the two shows, and did that until the show unfortunately was canceled. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. So what kind of merchandise? So sometimes some of the fans who were in the audience would see you. Is that correct? And what type of
They would,
merchandise would
yeah.
you present?
So I would say I was the second or third person they saw. It would be the first person when they line up in the line to go into the green room. And then of course security as they're being ushered in. And then there would be me. And I would sit there and I'm a natural born salesman. So one of my guilty secrets of my life is that I can do a good job of selling stuff. And so what I do is I worked the room. I went around, I talked to people, I encouraged them if it was slowed down. Hey, come on up, check our items and everything like that. And we sold things like shirts and mugs and pencils, lots of pencils, and there was aprons. I still have mine that says Big Sexy Chef. um, that I'll put on every once in a while. But you know, and that was her theme. Was the Big Sexy. I believe Lenny Kravitz came up with that for her. And so yeah, that became her tagline for the show. And I met Dana. Was a wonderful, wonderful person to work with, and it was amazing because it was one of my first times on a studio level TV production. I had done independent before this in different capacities in production and marketing. But for the studio level, this was my first studio gig. And it was amazing seeing how much hard work everybody put in. It was 150% from every level, including me, until until it wrapped at the end of the day. So yeah, that's basically my experience on the Queen Latifah show. So yeah.
That is awesome. And thank you for that, Benjamin. And so you said it was your studio job. So
Yeah.
that means that you went to the studio every day, right? You went through the gates.
Correct. Oh, yes, absolutely. I was on the lot for 2 years, and I had a different role. At the beginning, I was hired as a temp, to be honest, in as a file clerk, and I went into the interview, and it was about 2 minutes into the interview when I was started getting these questions, and I go, "This doesn't sound like a file clerk position." So I politely asked. I said, I'm a little confused. Is this for the file clerk position?" They go, "Yeah, yeah, file clerk." And I said, "But you've not asked me any of my administrative duties or my skills." And they said, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. This is actually for the clerk in the gift shop." And I was like, "Oh, wasn't expecting that." And this is something I would say to anybody out there that breaking into the industry is an interesting experience. It is not always easy, but it's not always hard. It does take hard work, though. And one of the things that I learned early on is that if there's something available, an opportunity that might not be what you expected or wanted, that you shouldn't say no to it immediately, that you should be open and say, I can grow from this. I can use this opportunity to move to where I want to be. And so I was sitting there in the interview thinking, do I want to work in a gift shop? And I'll be honest, not really. But at the same time, it was on the lot. I might meet some interesting people. Let's see what happens. And so I said, sure. And it was only supposed to be 2 days a week. And I quickly proved myself that I was a little more useful than 2 days a week. So I got then 4 and then 5. And then an opening popped up. Yeah, it was exciting. And it just grew from there. And I started off by just, working in the gift shop. And then soon they asked me, this is a part of the process, is that there was on the Sony lot, and I'm assuming they still have it. I haven't been there in a while. They had these. It was a really cool thing. They would give employees the opportunity to bid on items that had been in the movies, props, wardrobes, and so I was asked to be a part of that, and so I would go to the now closed archives and props and wardrobes warehouse and pick out items for the auction every week. And so I'd pick out items. I went once a month, and I get to play with the most amazing things. I held Will Smith's cricket from Men in Black. I saw the mashed potato mountain prop that was in the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and just amazing things like that. And of course, they went. I was like, "Can I sell this?" And they're like, "No, this is not. That's not. No, you got to go over there." And so, but we picked amazing things. A lot of stuff from Breaking Bad and like the movie Ali and things like that. And I would set it up for auction, and I proved that I can turn a profit. And so when the opportunity came, they said, "Can you do this with the Queen Latifah show?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so that's how I transitioned into the marketing team on the Queen Latifah show.
Wow, that
Yeah,
is so amazing. So, would you
sure.
recommend people temping? Is that a way to get into the studio system?
It is one way. It is very much one way. I found it to be very useful when I moved to LA in 2013. I spoke to some friends, and most of them had moved up in the ranks by starting off as a temp. And so I said, "Tell me what temp agencies to go to and everything like that." And just started accepting jobs. And one of the first ones was the Sony one. And I specifically told the temp agent that I would like to find a position that doesn't close, not one that's 3 days. I didn't want to go driving all the way to Santa Monica to do something and then not have that opportunity to network. So I said I would like longer term items. And so I set that parameters, and that's when the Sony thing came up. So the file clerk. And yeah, it worked out. So
Amazing.
yeah.
And so after, incredible. And so after the Queen Latifah show, and that was a great success. And then how did you transition to becoming a Warner Brothers executive? I mean, development executive at international TV production. How, that's incredible. How did you get that?
So the process, thank you. That the process um to this day, I'll give credit to mostly luck and just being open to opportunities, much the same way as I said before with the Sony position. After the Queen Latifah show ended, it was also during a time that was a little bit of a rough patch, I guess, for Sony. I won't go into details, but you might remember around 2015 there was a what we called a disruption. Many of them called the Sony hack, and so that was during that time. So I was a part of it, and or as an employee, I wasn't it wasn't a part of it. But yeah, I was affected by that, and so it was the Queen Latifah show. And the key word that was used on the lot much of the time was workaround. We found ways of continuing to keep working and being productive while we had no way of being on our computers. And so even on the Queen Latifah show, most of it was hand cash or old manual credit card machines. So having been around since the 90s in retail, working the early days, I knew how to use a manual credit card machine, so I had to train people on how to do that. And so that was one thing that I was able to do, because otherwise they'd be like, well, we can't use credit cards now, and that would have hurt sales. But we learned to, like I said, a workarounds on that. So after the show was canceled, it got to the point where I didn't feel aligned with working at Sony as much anymore. And so I turned in my notice, and started looking for temp work in the area where I live, which is Toluca Lake, Studio City area. And the first opportunity I got was at Warner Brothers. Actually, I was offered a position. Thank you. I know it's actually it's a fun story to that too. I really did set that parameter too. Sorry. I looked at and I did the most film centric cinephile thing. I took all the DVDs off my shelf and I stacked them, and I wanted to see, for the next company that I wanted to work at, what would it be? And so I said, let's see who I have the most movies from. And I guess it's not a secret anymore. Paramount won. I had more Paramount movies than I did any other ones. Disney was very, very high. But a lot of that had to do with my children's DVDs, which I love too. But I was like, okay, I can't count, you know, uh, Cinderella 4 or something like that. So I kind of removed those. And then really number two was Warner Brothers. I really loved Warner Brothers. So when I started temping, I said I'm open to anything, but if there's anything at Warner Brothers. And the first thing that came through was a position in consumer products. And it was working with the finance, I think he was the SVP, and just helping with contracts and sending out. It was and consumer products, for those, I guess we'll explain. um Warner Brothers and Disney both have amazing consumer products teams, and that is basically all the ancillary things like toys or home good products or birthday candles. When you go to Party City and you see Bugs Bunny on a napkin, that's all part of the consumer products process. So it's not just clothes and fun stuff. It's the all immersive experience that's beyond the movies and the television shows and cartoons. And it is an important, essential part of the Warner Brothers process. They do a lot for bringing profit into the company, and so yeah, so it was very exciting to be there and notice and see this from a new perspective. And I learned a lot from working in consumer products, and met some amazing people working there and everything like that. And so that was my first foray into that. And that position only lasted for a little bit. I mean, I guess I can go through the whole process, but I hopped around a lot. And because as a temp, some of those assignments may last 30 days. Some of them might last, what my longest one was 8 months. And so from there, an opportunity opened up, and I have a little experience in publicity and marketing on the independent film side. And so one of the HR representatives who I had met at Consumer Products said, "Hey, there's an opening in DC Comics for publicity. Would you be interested in a publicity coordinator position? It's only 30 days." And I said, yes. I'm like, that was not a hard question to answer. And so I ended up showing up at DC Comics. I think it was on a Tuesday. It wasn't even the first day of the week. It was like at a Tuesday, and I walked in. They're like, "All right, all hands meeting. Let's go. Department meeting. Let's go in, Ben." And I'm like, I know nothing about what's going to happen, so I just kind of stayed open and optimistic and just listened. And they asked me in that meeting, do I have any comments? And I said, I would like to take the first week to learn from you guys how the process works. And I did so. And then I ended up working there for 7 months. until the position ended, and which was 6 months longer than I expected. And met again some wonderful, wonderful people. Some of them still there, and have a love for characters I didn't even know existed in the DC universe. And so that was an amazing experience. But yeah, so then I did that, and then I moved to theatrical publicity. I also did Cartoon Network. I did international marketing. Jumped there, and again, Warner Brothers. Everyone that I worked with, the departments were always wonderful people, and I'm not blowing smoke up anywhere, but it really was a wonderful, wonderful company to work for in all the departments. Everybody loved what they did and did it with such dedication. And so it was never a problem whenever I pop into something that wasn't as exciting, like international marketing. Who'd think that would be fun? But it did. They made it fun. And so I did that, and they would invite me back every time they needed someone to replace. That happened that I ended up on Warner Horizon's legal team. I worked for a lawyer. Somebody was going on vacation, so I just covered a desk. And now I'm not a legal minded like that, and so I wasn't going to ever go, oh, I'm going to become a lawyer for Warner Brothers. But I took the position because I said, good, another opportunity. And so I did that. And while that was going on, um, they said, oh, this is going to end on this date. There's something next. Would you like me to sign you up for it? Because that's how temp work works. They kind of line you up on jobs. And I said, yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. And it was a role on the international television production team. And it was only 5 days. And I covered that desk. And for 4 of those days, I sat and did nothing. It was very quiet. The vice president of the department for the North American branch was actually in Canada in a conference. And so this is, I guess, to answer your question, how I got there. And so the first 4 days, I just was kind of supposed to answer phones, but the phones weren't ringing because everybody knew he was out. I answered emails, of course, and just kind of uh, learned more about the international team and spent that time. Again, it's always a learning process. And on the fifth day, the man came back, the vice president came back, and we spoke for a split second at the beginning of the day. And he said, like, oh, and he's a very friendly man, and he's now a friend of mine, and a colleague and a peer and someone I respect. And he said, can we talk later on? And I said, yeah, sure. So at the very end of the day, I'm packing up. He hadn't called me in his office. And I'm putting everything together to leave. And he goes, hey, we didn't get a chance to talk. Come in. And so I said, sure. And so we sat down and we spent like 10 minutes talking, and found out we have a lot of films in common. He found out I'm a writer and that I've worked in the scripted side for a long time, and I had some TV experience in a different capacity, but I still had that. And he was like, hey, that's great. And he asked to read a script of mine. And so I sent him a script, not thinking much of it. A lot of people will say, hey, can I read a script? And then you never hear again, which is okay. He came back to me about a month later and said he loved the script, wanted to see if he could help me get this thing off the ground. And I said, well, that's amazing. And then it was another month later that he called me up and he goes, hey, there's an opportunity where my assistant is going to be moving to a different department, and I need somebody that knows the scripted side, is a writer, can help me build up the scripted side of formats. And I said, okay. And I'm thinking, is he asking me to come in and fill as a temp? And then he responded by saying, internally asking that question, he asked me if I was more interested in being a development associate, an executive, a low-level executive, helping with the scripted side. And he said, I don't need an assistant per se. I need someone to help me with that. And that excited me. And so I said, that I can do. That is my skill set. That is my talent. And so, yeah, I got hired and went from there. And that's how I ended up being a development executive at Warner Brothers.
Amazing. This is
Luck and
incredible.
opportunity.
I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
cheer, I just have to say cheers to you,
Oh,
Benjamin
thank
Thornton,
you.
for all of that. What an incredible story. And you're right. It was the right timing for you. It was perfect, wasn't it? It was just
It
that,
worked out.
yeah,
Yeah. No, it was like I said, it was a lot of luck, but you got to put yourself in the path of luck.
yeah.
Otherwise, it'll miss you, you
Mhm.
know? And so yes, it was a very, very lucky experience, but I also say that I worked hard to get to that luck. It wasn't like I just waited for it. If you wait for the luck, it won't hit you. But if you jump in front of its path, you'll catch it. If that
Great
makes
wisdom. That is great advice, isn't it? And so you're
sense.
saying also keep going and keep reaching out, even if you get rejected or someone gets rejected, to keep at it, right? Just,
Oh gosh, yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
This is a business, I'm hearing from you. Is this right? This is a business of persistence and perseverance and action and just not giving up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even in, I mean, and that's more of the executive side role of getting a role in the position of a studio employee. But even in the independent space, you have to do the same thing. You got to get used to being rejected. It's not fun. It can hurt. And there are days where when the roles ended that I really loved, um, I felt a little hurt. I was like, oh my God, I didn't do enough. But it wasn't about that. It wasn't about me. They weren't letting me go. It was the role ended. And they were like, many times it was like, we're sorry that this is happening. We don't have a replacement position for you, but if something else opens. And there was a few times where they'd call me back for stuff. And I felt great again. And then I got used to it, realizing this is a part of the process. You have to accept that it's not always you they're rejecting, it's the fact that they can't use you at this time. And the same with a script. If you write a script or you're getting your projects out there as a producer and you bring something, 99% of the time, the people you talk to are going to reject it, not because of the project or you, it's because of them. And that was one of my things is that as a Warner Brothers executive, I looked at a lot of amazing projects, and some of them I was like, why hasn't this been done already? And unfortunately, I was under the mandates of what Warner Brothers needed, not wanted, but needed. And they have a bunch of planners and teams that are built out to go, okay, this is what we're doing for the next 10 years. It's not like they're flying by the seat of the pants. They know what they're doing. They're consummate professionals. And so they know what they have, they know what they need, and they know what they're missing as well, right? And so they said, this is what we need to fill right now. And so I might find something that is amazing, like a singing competition. And I saw many times where people would pitch me amazing singing competitions, something better than it's on TV. But unfortunately, Warner Brothers already has The Voice or had another type of singing show. And so, although this one's great, I would still pitch it, but I would always make sure people knew that, well, they're not looking for singing competitions because they already have this many and some in play. So don't be personally affected by that. It's not you, it's that the mandates of the company. And so, and that's the difference between independent producers than studio producers, is that there is this overarching mandates where
Yes.
independent producers are a little more free to go, oh my God, I can work on this for a while. you know. So
Right. In
yeah.
fact, I want to thank you so much. You were so gracious. That's how we met because I was pitching a project called Haunt Improvement, and I sent you the sizzle reel, I believe, or the lookbook, or the Bible, or something, the deck.
Sent me a lookbook, and I do believe you sent me the sizzle afterwards. But the first thing I saw was the lookbook, the pitch
Yes,
deck.
and I want to thank you for your graciousness. You were so kind. You were so responsive. You were just really, really lovely to chat with, and thank you so much for that, Benjamin. I so appreciate that.
Of course.
And and that got us talking too about and it's interesting, yes. Like for instance, the streamers might be focused right now on Netflix, the model of how successful Netflix is. So they might want to look at that, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there's a lot of those mandates. A lot of conversations that we would have with clients and buyers is, what are you looking for? And I think that is, if we're going to go into a little bit of what is great about the lessons of pitching, is don't always go in with just this. A question that especially if you're starting out, is when you go to pitch an idea, you might have a script or an idea, but it always is important at some point to ask this question of the buyer, whether it's Warner Brothers, Netflix, or anybody. What are you looking for? Because they know it. They want certain things, and they're not going to hide that from you if you're pitching. There are times where I was pitched something and I loved it, but I knew that wasn't right for me as an exec or as a Warner Brothers, because that didn't fit the mandates. So what I would say is, and I always say this anyways, is what else you got? And that seems to be a little cliche. Everybody asks that. But the reason why that question is so important is because of those mandates, right? That I'm not going to go, okay, here's what I'm looking for, because that's not fair to you who's coming in with something different. That you want to come in, and I saying you in the pejorative sense. You come in and say, I have this idea, but have something lined up and then pitch it. And I've had times where people have brought me things and I said, I like it. I like that a lot. I really do, but I don't think that's something that Warner Brothers will be into. Do you have anything else? And then they'll start pitching and we'll find something. But if I had said, that's not what works for me, do you have anything else? And the question comes back, well, what are you looking for? Then we can spend less time chasing what I need, right? And I go, oh, well, right now we're looking for a home improvement show on haunt improvements. And you would say, I got that, you know. And by the way, it's still a brilliant idea, and I want somebody to make that. I did bring it to the teams, and a lot of people loved it, but for mandate reasons, it was one of those ones that got passed on.
Oh,
But it had
thank
nothing to do with you and nothing to do with the project. It did get serious consideration because it is a great idea.
yes, thank
Yeah.
you so much. And
Oh, of
we
course.
love,
I'm not lying. That's the total truth. Um,
oh,
it was a fantastic idea, and I still think it's a great idea, and I think it should be made. And so, if anybody's watching this and says that's a great idea, talk to AJ.
me
Uh,
too. Me too. We still think that. And we also
yeah,
we love Butch Patrick and we love Tom Devlin, don't we? So and yeah, they're fabulous. So thank you so much, Benjamin,
yeah,
for
of
that.
course, of course.
So I'm going to ask you another question about the entertainment industry and how um, you got into it. What sparked your initial interest in film and television? Was there any, childhood growing up moments or inspirations or celebrities or, Steven
Um,
Spielberg, or who did you want to be like, or how did it start?
well, growing up in California, um, it's just ingrained in you. I was born in Southern California in Chino, Ontario area, the Inland Empire. Not many people will admit it, but I do. And but I was raised in the Bay Area, and so I jokingly say that I'm all California. I was born down here, raised there, and for the industry moved back. And like I said, in 2013, but I spent much of my younger adult life in the Bay Area, which has a very different mentality and a different film industry itself. It's more independent minded. It's a little more social activism. There's a little more experimentalism in it. There is, of course, the great visual effects and post production teams that are up there. Tippett and of course Lucasfilm and stuff like that. So um, it was always a part of this the lifestyle, the culture of California. Um, I remember I remember many movies when I was a child, but the first one that really affected me was Popeye. And yes, that was a movie I was really into, and I remember Black Stallion as well and everything like that. But that was a movie that I emulated. I was really, 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 really in love with that movie a lot, and remember mimicking Robin Williams, and was a big fan of that. And I'm basically the same age as Saturday Night Live, and so I grew up with that on TV, and so. Those things were always influences. Actually, comedy was an early influence to me. I liked seeing people laugh. I liked people smiling. I like entertaining people. I remember when I got my job at Warner Brothers and announced it, somebody on my Facebook page from my elementary school said they remembered me in third grade saying, I'm either going to be in the movies or I'm going to be writing books. And I don't remember saying that, but she did. And I said, wow, I haven't changed. I guess I knew who I was then. And that's what I do. I'm a writer. I've always written. So I've been a writer as long as I can remember. I remember writing for my school newspaper in elementary school, poetries and articles and book reports and all that stuff. And so that's always been a part of me, and entertaining and things like that. So it was a natural progression. What did I always want to be in a director? No, actually I started off um wanting to be an actor, actually, and a musician. And so I played the saxophone and okay on the piano. And so I was like, oh, I'll write songs. I wanted to be a composer for a little while. And then I realized the music industry is a hard business. It's a whole different experience. Yeah. And so I was told in my process of learning more about the thing, I became a music major for a while, and they said, well, you can only be a performer or a teacher. That's the only way to profit and make money and for most people. And I said, well, none of those are what I want to do. I want to be a composer and a songwriter. And they go, yeah, there's no money in that. You might hit it big, but you know. And so I thought, okay. So I switched to, I said, just focused on acting. And so I started doing acting. But then I realized that I didn't love it as much as I liked writing. And so I've written some plays that have been produced and on for stage in New York and San Francisco. And I started falling in love with being behind the camera, I guess per se, but behind the stage, writing and doing that and directing in the theater space. And so then I had to figure out what was my next steps. And so I took a few years off and said I need to go back to college at one point. I said I'm going to go back to college and get my degree, my bachelor's. And I figured out what I want to do and what school. And I ended up on San Francisco State, and they had a experimental film program. I mean, it's not experimental in say, but I went to San Francisco State as a filmmaker, and as I jokingly said, I went in trying to be a filmmaker, and I came out an artist because they don't teach you commercial filmmaking, at least not when I was there. They were more about teaching you how to make experimental films and how to make art films and expression and using the narrative of experimental as a way of expressing the self. And so I made a lot of experimental films and short films and non-narrative films and weird little animations, hand-drawn animations and things like that, and learned even how to use cameraless film and how to hand process. And it was an amazing time. And amazing. So when I met some people that are still friends today because of it. And yeah,
That's so cool. I love San Francisco. And
me too.
yeah, oh, what fun you had. And I love that, you had your education there and it's a beautiful area and place. And wow, what a great background to have when you moved to Hollywood and
And
Los
then we moved.
Angeles.
And
Yeah.
then we moved. Yeah. So for a while I did and that was the independent experience. I did so many different things there. Assistant editing on documentaries, a couple docs, feature docs that ended up being on PBS and such and winning some awards. And then hopped around. Well, I did so much stuff. Tried to get into internships at some local TV channels, and which actually I did get one, and then it closed the week before my internship started. No, it's okay. It was a channel called Tech TV at the time. It was a local channel. Anybody from the 90s in San Francisco might remember it. It was a very interesting channel that would feature technology. And it was like, and they had weird shows like how if your computer crashes, here's what you do, and things like that. Or there was other fun stuff and exciting things. And I was hired to be in the post production to take the shows and ironically re-edit them for the international market. And like I said, the position was I was offered it, I was given it, and then I got nothing for about 2 weeks. And I was like, I'm supposed to start soon. And I ended up walking up to their offices, and someone was there and they were packing up everything. And they said, oh, sorry, we're moving to Los Angeles. Our new station's going to be there. And it ended up being for a while G4. It became a channel that was known for Attack of the Show. I think Olivia Munn started on that, and but that was originally a local channel in San Francisco. And so from there, I did other things, and I ended up being working on the programming team for a local festival called the Mill Valley Film Fest. And so I worked there. I think that was also as 2009,
Was
and
that fun, Benjamin?
it was wonderful. It was a fun experience, and I did not know the distribution of curation of film festivals. I've been to film festivals and Sundance and everything, but not working on the inside of it. And again, just it amazes me how much stuff goes into. I mean, just alone, I was on the programming side, so I saw over, I think that year, about 1,500 films come in, and the festival only sees like 100 of those, and many of those are like invited from other festivals. So even those cold submissions are really like almost impossible to get into the festivals, but there are some amazing films that they're like, this is too good to pass up. We have to put them in. But it's again mandates. They only have a certain amount of slots. Otherwise they would air it all, right? So anyway, so I did that. And I would say they found out that I liked a certain niche of film that not a lot of people do, which is experimental, avant-garde, fringe festivals, international films, foreign language films. And they said, well, we need someone that will take those films at face value and give us an honest assessment for the festival. And I said, I will do that for you. And so I was, after I did the programming, I was stayed on as a pre-screener, and I still do this to this day. I've been pre-screening for them for 15 years now, 16 years. And so I get to watch anywhere
That's
from,
great.
sometimes it's 10 films a year. I've been up to 45, 50 films in one year. That was the most. And most of those don't get accepted, but they're still amazing films. And I challenged the system and saying, you got to put this in there because you have to. And sometimes I've won. I've had a few films that were going to be ignored and got in because of it. And
I
those are,
love that. Isn't that fun
yeah.
to screen films? And yes, I've been a part of that too.
Yeah.
And I think I screened like 300 in a weekend for one film festival. And I was just
Oh my
so
God.
proud of myself because um, now there's a lot of content out there. And yes, I know, but you know, it has to have a certain quality. Do you agree, Benjamin?
I do.
For
I do.
yeah,
Yeah, there's mandates for each festival, and there's and I won't go into details, it. There's tiers of levels of festivals, and there's nothing wrong with them. There's always the first tier, which are the Sundances, the Rotterdams, all the Venice
Tribeca.
Film Festival. Tribeca is a great one. And those are the premier where it'll attract the attention of the industry. That's really the difference. The films don't change. It's really that is that the exposure to that industry is there. The second tier films also get those. They get exciting networking. People get invited, and those are wonderful too. Not as great as opportunity, and usually that's a film that gets a North American premiere instead of a world premiere, or it might get a regional premiere instead of a North American premiere. Those are the second tiers. The third tier are honestly the most fun to go to because there's no expectations, there's no stress, there's no fear of being rejected when you get to the networking things. It's just a party. And those are the ones that are niche film festivals, the horror film festivals, the comedy festivals, the local ones that have the name of the city in it. And those are actually the most exciting for me because that is where people that love film go to watch films. That's it. And they go and then they're still found. Those films are still found because that gets those into the next rounds because people said you got a great reception here, we want it in that, and it moves to the second tier. Right. And that's why a good festival run, or as I like to call it, the Feast of Laurels. Because you ever see a promotional card, you got one, two, it's great. And some of my films have one or two laurels, and I'm proud of them. I'm very proud of them. But if you get 10, 15 laurels, oh my gosh.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
royalty, right? That's Feast of Laurels right there. Uh, and so you want that. And so that includes the third tiers, the second tiers, the first tiers. They're all important for the industry and everything like that. And so to be a part of that was great. And honestly, sometimes there was a film that I loved so much that didn't get into the Mill Valley Film Festival. So I reached out to some of the people I know at the third tiers and said, this is a film you cannot miss. And they would watch it and it would get accepted. And that was a big win for me. And the filmmakers didn't know. No one ever met me because I knew the programmers, and programmers go, we love your film, and that's it, right? So, and one of the things is that I took to the executive position is that I've been on that side. I've been on the side of pitching. I know how hard it is and scary it is to go to an executive who is sitting there in a suit and looking at you and judgy and everything, and they're not, but that's what you feel. And so I never wanted to do that to someone, and so I have always been there to accept the idea that there's something out there, a nugget, a kernel that you might not see. The what is that? The needle in the haystack kind of situation. You might find that amazing item, and so yeah, but I also make sure to know and tell people, hey, this might not work this time, but your next project might. Let's keep this conversation going.
Keep
So
the conversation going. I love that. I love that
yeah,
so much. Um,
yeah.
so this is so great. It's so much fun to talk about film festivals and everything with you, Benjamin. During your tenure at Warner Brothers, you witnessed a lot of transitions and the shift from Brad Globe to Pam Lifford in the consumer products division. So did that change the impact of the industry when people change positions like that? Can you share a little bit? I know if there's some things you don't want to share, that's absolutely keep
Um,
it private. But
no,
did it?
I understand that. No, I mean, so for Brad, I came, I think about 2 months after he officially retired. And so I think Pam had been already, and don't quote me on the exact 2 months or 3 months or anything like that. And I wasn't right under Pam Lifford's team, although everybody was under Pam. I shouldn't say that, but Pam hadn't officially started. She hadn't been in the office yet. So I was in that weird transition period. Um, there's always going to be chaos during transition. And I don't think that a smooth transition can exist when you go from one type of philosophy for your the way of doing business to another. And philosophy in the sense of this is how we're going to this mission statement, our mandates. Um, Pam, as I remember, came from Disney before that. Don't quote me on all her career. But so she had a different type of mentality than Brad. And that's not a thing. She was brought in because they wanted that new mentality. They wanted this new change. And they were very exciting. And she had new ways of doing stuff. And not everybody loved it. But at the same time, they were open to try. And it worked out. Right. And so um, it was an interesting time to be there. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
because
exciting.
speaking of your role as merchandise coordinator for the Queen Latifah show,
Sure.
what was there a highlight? I know you said you met Dana,
Yeah.
and but were there memorable challenges or successes, or were there highlights days that you will never forget?
Of course. Um, the, the trans there were it was all memorable. I will say that. Like I said, I got there early, and so she did something amazing every day. She was one of those people who also want to inspire and encourage, and she brought a warmth and a light to the production. Sometimes when you get into a production experience, you go on set and you've got grips and carpenters and PAs and just the people in the crew who have been there hours and hours and hours. They've started at 6 a.m. and by the time the talent gets there, it's 11, 12 o'clock. I was also one of my jobs at Warner Brothers International was we worked with the Ellen team during the Ellen DeGeneres show, and so I got to go behind the set and work in a different experience than I did on the Queen Latifah show. But I was on when they would do filming, and I actually sold with my colleagues the Ellen show as a format around the world. And so we got to meet the teams, the producers, and Ellen, and all that. And the talent, like this is why I'm saying this, the talent gets in at like 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever time they're before film, they get ready, they go to makeup, they get all prepared. And Ellen does her thing, and I'm sure Jimmy Kimmel does his thing. Queen, my experience with Queen Latifah was she came out and she would rap, she would do a concert, she would do at least a song for her crew, and you would watch the team, the crew, and the people around her just light up. And there was an energy afterwards that didn't exist before because they had been working for 4 hours, 5 hours. And then she come out and just do a song for them, nobody else. And she didn't do it every day. She did many days, but there were times where she would come out and she would just do that. And maybe she was doing it for herself. Maybe she was doing it for the team, but it made everybody enjoy the process more. And like I said, they worked least 15-hour days, 16-hour days because they filmed two shows a day, and the process is long and arduous, and even the audience would get tired because some of them would sometimes overflow to both. right? They would usually let everybody go, but some people would want to stay and for the second one. And they in how Queen Latifah worked that they would film, but it wasn't live. It wasn't like Jimmy Kimmel or Ellen where it would drop that day. Queen Latifah filmed ahead of time. So there would be times where I remember walking in one day, talking about to answer your question, walking in and seeing a caribou just in a cage, kind of not a cage, but just wrangled in this little area eating some straw. And I'm like, why is there a caribou? And it's like July or something like that. What is going on here? And it's for the Christmas episode of Queen Latifah,
Oh, how
right?
funny.
And so is I mean don't quote me on what it was at Christmas, but it was definitely one of the seasonal. But yeah, so that was there. Another memorable experience. This is more of a faux pas, but I remember the first day, one of the first days walking on the Sony lot. I came from the overland parking, if you know it. You have to walk all the way to where my offices were. And I would pass all the sound stages. And Sony is a beautiful lot. All of them are beautiful lots, but so I really loved Sony lot.
I mean,
Um,
didn't it used to be MGM Studios?
it was MGM Studios,
There
yeah.
you
And they also have
go.
a
There you
backlot like Warner Brothers. Yeah, I mean each studio is amazing. I'll be honest, the only one I've never been on is Paramount's, just because I never had a business reason to be there. But I've been to Raleigh, I've been to Gower, I've been to Warner Brothers, Disney, and there's something about the Sony lot that was just exciting and fun. And maybe it's because it was my first studio that I was just every day on. Did not like the 405, but that's another story. But once I got to work, it was fun. And I remember one day walking by and there was a little note on like a little 8.5 by 11 paper, and it said Shark Tank. And being in the industry for a while, but not at that level, I walked into work and I'm like, this is crazy. And they're like, what? I'm like, we have a Shark Tank? And they go, yeah, of course, the show, Shark Tank. And I said, oh my gosh, where do they keep the sharks? I thought it was a real Shark Tank built inside the soundstage. I did not associate it with the show itself. And so I was super excited to think, oh my gosh, this is where they film Dangerous Waters.
go.
Because I thought it was a shark, or it was for a movie. Maybe it was Deep Blue Sea 2 or 3 or something, which is more Warner Brothers thing. But I literally thought there were sharks on the lot. And then when
How
they said
funny.
that, I felt like a complete imbecile. So I guess that was a memorable experience. That's when I realized that never believe what you see. It's all an artifice. It's all an illusion, which is
Uh,
what Hollywood is an illusion.
amazing,
And so, yeah,
amazing.
that wasn't a part of the Queen Latifah show, but no, but that was an experience. The first day I remember, I actually called in sick the day of the first day of the Sony hack, or the disruption as we called it.
Mhm.
Um, I wasn't feeling well, so I remember my boss calling me and saying, "Don't come in." I said, "Well, I already called in sick. What's up?" And he's all like, "Just don't come in." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "We're all going home." And I said, why? What? He goes, and then he did rib me a little bit. He goes, wish you came in, huh? Because you would have been paid. I was like, well, no, I'm not feeling it. So, okay. But I was like, what's going on? But no one knew. No one knew what was going on. And so there was chaos and confusion. And Sony was also another experience where I met a lot of wonderful people and friendly. But it tested so many people. I remember one one PA walking around carrying a stack of scripts because even the printers weren't working. They couldn't even manually copy things. So they had to go to Kinko's, and she was running around in circles, going, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. We were getting emails to our personal accounts threatening us from the people that did the disruption, saying
Whoa.
give up information or we're going after your families too. So those were moments that were hard. But like I said, everybody ganged together and worked to get through it. And so it was an interesting experience to see thousands of people affected, but not torn down by it.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting time, and that
Wow.
was during the time the Queen Latifah show said, like I said, I had to teach people how to use a manual crank machine for a credit card machine, and just be offline, but still work in a way that computers were no longer needed, and we in a world where we are so integrated into our digital world.
Yeah.
uh that was a refreshing experience to see that we could still do it without.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It was only temporary, but
you handled it really well. And also, doesn't she sound like a wonderful and lovely person, Queen Latifah? She really is. We love her.
she
And
she was awesome.
she gave you some wonderful memories and years. And I'm so thankful and grateful for that, Benjamin. What a great experience.
It was fun. I loved it.
Awesome. Okay, so
Yeah,
I want everyone to know that you're also a writer. You write scripts.
I do.
And I want to talk to you about, what drives your storytelling? What kind of genres do you like to write about?
Well, um that is probably a harder question to answer than anything you've asked me yet, because I'll be honest, I love telling stories. I like finding a kernel of an idea that's different than anybody else has ever done. Um,
You're,
Complex stories, complex characters. Um, Genre wise, I know what I love to watch. Like I said, in the early days, I wanted to be comedic. I wanted to be funny, and all the people I like aspired to be was the Robin Williams and the John Belushi's and Bill Murray, of course, and all those were such an influence on me as a kid. I'll be honest, and I know it's not as cool anymore to say it, but I was really influenced by the early days of Bananas and Sleeper and all the Woody Allen films. And like I said, my first movie that I ever watched was Popeye, and there it is. My One of my first favorite films of all time came from Robert Altman. I'm a 7-year-old that loves a Robert Altman film. Yes, it was Popeye, and that's right. Yeah, see, I'm forgetting now, but maybe that's just dementia kicking in. But
not
but no,
19, no, you're doing great. 1980 adventure
1980.
comedy family. So that's the
Yeah.
genre that you like. And oh my gosh, Robin Williams was just over the top, wasn't
Oh, it
he?
was amazing. Yeah.
But do you know what I heard? Do you know what I heard? Was this true? I mean, they said it was a little wild on set. Have you
I've
read?
heard that. Yeah, yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Um, you know what's funny about it is that looking back at the time, the whole experience to me was the movie was just epic, right?
Yeah.
And up until then, I had seen more things like Pete's Dragon or Sword in
Mhm.
the Stone. I was a big fan of Black Hole, but yeah, no, the family friendly films are what I was raised on, and
Mhm.
I remember watching that and just being amazed at the set design. And I didn't understand the words yet, but the set design,
Oh,
the
yeah.
ability to narrate a storyline with that many characters, which was Robert Altman's, like no one can do that like him.
Wasn't he great?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Anderson and a few others now, Tarantino, who can control like 20 characters and just make them all feel important instead of side characters. But Altman was the master of that. And I remember just Wimpy and Bluto and all the characters and even Popeye's dad. And they were all important to the story. And he made that in such a scale that it just was, wow, this is film. And, when we talk about um not we haven't yet, but the idea that film has become more digital, where we're looking at now the idea of using AI, or the spectacle of film has changed for the audience in the sense that you don't watch a movie and are in total disbelief of it. You just go, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Because at that time, the scope, they used and built a whole island. I think it still exists, right? And the octopus scene and all the amazing the ships and the detail and everything like that. And as it like an 8-year-old kid, I was sitting there looking at that, or 9 or whatever it is, and going, this is amazing. How did this happen? How did they do it? And I wanted to understand it. Maybe that was my first time I wanted to be in film. I didn't say it that way, but I wanted to understand how this was built out. Where I still love seeing with my kids a film like Avengers or the Marvel movies or the DC movies and everything like that. But my sense of spectacle is gone because I know that computers can do it all. And I love that's why I like the niche films. I love it when you make a horror film where, and I think this is why people want horror films right now, and see something that's so visceral and experienced, because you don't need digital for that, right? We understand practical effects. Practical effects still astonish us, where I don't think digital does the same thing. Mentally, we're not there. Our psychology accepts that this is a false when it's a digital thing. And so therefore we pull back from it. Where when you see something practical where it freaks you out, you get scared, right? And it doesn't matter if it's like rated R or rated R. You know, it's the more real it feels, the more engaged you are. Um, and I think that's important. And so, I mean, if we're going to do a lesson in any of this, I think the idea that pulling people in instead of pushing them away in cinema is the way to save cinema,
Yes.
the art of it.
I mean, that connection, that emotional
Yeah.
connection, it's
Yeah.
where the scripts need that throughout the whole script. You need that emotional connection with the community, with the world. Isn't that right, Benjamin?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I don't know how this got into this because I know you asked about my writing, but so storytelling wise, that's what I want. I want to write stories that pull people in, that engage with them, that entertain while enlighten and engage. That's important to me.
And you will, and you are. And
That's the story I tell.
I love that. I love that. So, Benjamin, we're going to have to start
Thank-
wrapping the show up. I've enjoyed this so much, but I have a few more questions, if I may. And
Of course.
if there's anything else that you want to promote. But first of all, a couple more questions, and then we're going to do the rapid fire questions as well. So, when you were working in the studios, in the studio system, how did you maintain that creative integrity while meeting the commercial demands of the studio's requirements? How did you keep that balance? Because you still wanted to deliver great storytelling, and yet there were these mandates that you mentioned. So how did you balance that?
Um, uh, a hunger for finding amazing ideas, I think, is the easiest answer for that. People would come to me and say, I have an idea. And I was always receptive. As I said, I wanted to always be open to hearing a new idea because you never know. Although mandates are important for the studios, there's also those special diamonds that you want to bring them and they go, oh my God, we didn't know we needed that. And I found a few of those. And one of them being haunt improvement is that wasn't something anybody was looking for. And unfortunately, they passed ultimately, but it wasn't something that they said, you know what, we're missing, and then say that, right? And that's why it was taken with serious consideration because they also saw the worth of it. They saw how interesting it was and everything like that. And if I hadn't been open and receptive to hearing different, I would have never heard it, right? And so I think that, and this is a key, all you executives out there, don't worry about just the mandates. Those are important, but remember that there is going to be outliers that will be actually more interesting and more exciting. And those are going to be the ones that people are going to want to come back and watch. And so that I would say is very important in the creative process of the personal as well as the mandates to answer.
Thank you so much. I love that and great advice, Benjamin. And very, very important. Now I'm going to switch to Now What, which we have the poster here. Now What? It's the old money, new style, a Butterfly Films production starring Marilyn Facey, Vivian Sievers, and John O'Hurley, along with, Ursula Burton and Barbara Goodson. Incredible independent production. Now, this is a TV series comedy, right? That we filmed there in Los Angeles on location. And it was so great to meet you, Benjamin. And now, we're getting accepted to all of these film festivals, and that's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
But I did want to ask you, what did you think of your experience, the production of Now What? What did you think of it? Was it fun?
Oh my gosh, yes. First off, it was very fun, and I was very honored and still honored to be a part of it in a small way. I remember you put out the call for people to come and I was back. I was party number 9. I still remember my name. But party year number 9, and so yeah, I mean, and like we had met via chat and phone and Zoom, but not in person and everything. And I thought this sounds fun, and that again, that's kind of important is that we always there needs to be an element of fun in this, the excitement. Otherwise, it feels like grueling work and it is tiring and everything like that. But you know, when Queen would come out and sing or rap, do her performance, it lightened the mood. And the same with Now What. There was never this stress or thing that I remember watching the Steadicam operator learning his moves and what you guys did was something that rarely happens on a big studio set. You integrated the background extras that we were and saying, could you be here do that? And I'm sure there's blocking and everything, but it wasn't like stand there and then that was it. It was like, oh, what do you think if you were here? And you included everybody. And that's what I love about independent in the first place, is that everyone's there for the love of first, and they want this to succeed and they want it to be what it will be. But for the first and foremost is this love of creating, and that you felt on set from
Yes, and
every single element of it, and it was fun.
I I totally agree. And I have to give credit to the outstanding casting director, CSA casting director, Kimberly Skirm, because she is Butterfly Films CEO and founder, and also Maria Burton, who is the director of Now What. And then also you mentioned the Steadicam, the Trinity operator, Colleen Haley, and her team, and just amazing people. So thank you so much for that, Benjamin.
Of course.
And okay, now we have some. I wanted to ask you, do you want to promote anything or give a shout out to anybody or thank you?
um I mean, just there's projects I'm working on. I'm still developing. I'm consulting with things. I don't have any specifics that I can ready to pitch yet or anything like that. Shout outs, no, yeah, sure. My family, my wife, my children, love them more than I could ever physically say. They mean so much to me. And just people that it's weird. I'm at an age where I want to work with people that I like and friends, and it's important for me to meet good people. And there's a lot of good people in the industry. Sometimes it gets a bad rap in the news and everything like that, and that has a lot to do with it's more fun to say the salacious than the dull, boring stuff of hey, we're all good people. And there are sharks in the water. Despite them not being on Shark Tank, but they're definitely some sharks that you got to avoid, but there are a lot of good people that are here just to do something because they love it and they are artists and creatives.
Yeah.
And AJ, you and your team prove that on Now What, and
Oh,
also your pitches and your ideas, and that's who I want to work with is people like you.
yeah.
That's exciting
Aw.
to me. And I have met many of them, and if I say every single person's name, it would be unfair to the ones I don't mention. So, but if I'm still having conversations with you, you're a good person, and I would love to work with you continuously.
Thank
And
you
that's
so
true.
much. Oh my
True.
gosh, we feel the same way. I feel the same way, Benjamin, and you're stellar. You're a gem, and that's why I said I think I complimented you, and it was so true. Jack and the brothers, the Warner Brothers, way back.
Oh yeah.
You have that same philosophy and respect
Yeah.
and love for the craft and creative filmmaking and storytelling. And I saw that in you because you were open-minded, to hearing about what we were discussing, haunt improvement. And I just want to thank you for that, continuing that tradition, because that's so important in today's modern world. Thank you.
And- yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so we have some rapid fire questions that I like to
Okay.
ask. Okay, so
I'm ready.
strap your seat belt on, sit up tall,
Rapid. And like,
straight,
how do I have to answer in like 5 seconds?
no.
Oh boy. Okay, I'm ready.
Straighten your spine, get ready, have your water. Okay, we're all ready.
Get it.
Okay,
Go.
what's the movie that you can watch over and over again, Benjamin?
Oh my gosh. It depends the mood. I would say that. I'll, and I like weird stuff. One of my favorite films that I just love to pop in is a movie that hopefully people know of it. It's called The American Astronaut. It's an amazing movie. I've watched it probably 100 times. Family, I would say, may I say more than one? family wise, easy. If it's on, I'll watch it any day. That would be either Napoleon Dynamite, 1,000 times. That movie will never get old for me. Um, or I would say Better Off Dead. That's one of my favorite all time films. Chinatown. That's easy. And then I would say, and it's a offlier because if you put it on, you're gonna just have to sit for hours. But I love Lawrence Arabia. It's the most gorgeous film ever made.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah,
yes. Oh,
yeah.
they're
That's a
all
movie
so
I could
good.
watch 1,000 times and just go. David Lean, master,
Beautiful, isn't it? Oh my gosh.
gorgeous.
Just you mentioning that, pictures of the landscape and the scenery come into my mind, and it's just
All the
incredible.
sand and oh yeah,
Oh,
no casting, everything, that movie's perfect, perfect movie. So
so if
even the overture.
I love that, I love that so much. And I agree 1000%. Benjamin, if you could work with any director or actor, who would it be?
Um, can they be alive or dead or
Yeah.
both or the undead? Okay. Well, um, I w- well, one, I had the almost the opportunity to work with Lloyd Kaufman on something, and unfortunately the terms and deal didn't work out to anything, and I had to turn it down, and I regret it. That was an opportunity I really wish I had. Would have brought me on a different trajectory, but it was yeah, it was an opportunity I missed. If I was to work with somebody I never met, I would say Roger Corman. I would have loved to have worked with Roger Corman. I have so much respect for him. This boundless respect for that man. So I'm very sad I missed it. David Lynch, big fan, respect, and that's just because he recently passed, and I'm just down the street from Bob's Big Boy, and I remember going there and just sitting there looking at the altar that was created for him after he passed, and just how many people accepted him as an artist and respected him as a filmmaker, and you didn't see that often because his films didn't make major money, and so you almost forget how influential he was, but he was. And so those are, I would say, for directors wise, that actor, I've been always a fan of Humphrey Bogart. There you go. I'd work with him in a heartbeat if we can clone him.
Maybe, you never know. I
Clone, who knows? Yeah. Don't,
that,
please don't.
that might
Whoever's out there with science, do not do that.
that might be coming next. It might be a brand new world.
Yeah.
Um,
Live, I'll say live.
yeah.
A man that I've always respected from Bosom Buddies days is Tom Hanks. I think
Oh my gosh, yes.
I would work with him in a heartbeat if he would work with me.
Tom
There you
Hanks,
go.
yes.
Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks, are you listening? There you go.
Tom Hanks, if you're watching and if you're listening, or
You're listening?
someone knows you that's going to watch,
Yeah.
definitely
Okay.
reach out to Benjamin.
There it is.
He's
And
ready.
AJ. We'll do it
Okay.
together.
All right.
Not so
So
rapid fire. I apologize. You got it.
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
I always do this as our signature on our show, and this is I'm going to ask you your heart message for the world. You know, this is so important. What is it, Benjamin?
The heart of the message. Um, you know, is this for just the world? We're in an interesting time where there's a lot of chaos. And we put on the filter that this is the worst of hard times and the everything. Life is never easy. Never, never, ever going to be easy. There's too many people that have different ways of looking and thinking and doing. Um, but honestly, there's the elements of what makes us all one is important. And so we need to realize that although we might not always agree, we need to stop hating each other, that we need to start to realize that we're all just here for a short period of time. And so let's just create, be, and just respect each other. Yeah. Yeah. We all
What?
have one heart.
I love that. We all have a heart, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, life comes up, things happen. Let's just be kind to each other. Let's be
Kind.
gracious. Let's give each other grace, right? And I just love that so, so much. Thank you, Benjamin. You have really I'm really happy with your show. Thank you so much for being here,
Oh, thank you for inviting me, AJ. This is great.
spending time here, and appreciate you so much. And until next time, Benjamin, au revoir.
Au revoir. Thank you so much.